Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Hope the week's gone well. We had a bit of rain here, but it seems to be drying out now. This is a photograph I took of elephants in the Iwasa Niro River, which is in Samburu, and it's quite a classical shot. I'm quite pleased with it. Macro thoughts, there's so much going on. Traders obviously debating if this is the beginning of the end for easy money, and this is a question being posed by Bloomberg. And I did write about this moment, but I wrote about it in September 2016, and I started by saying if volatility spikes, which is what we're seeing now, positions are going to be reduced en masse. Or to put it another way, and to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax at the Nightman, we are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. What is clear is that we are at the fag end of this party I wrote then, and I think we are there now. This is the yield on German 10-year bunds, which rose 9 basis points to 0.56, the highest level since January 2016. More than 580,000 Bund future contracts are traded by about midday in London, about 1.7 times the number traded as of the same time on Wednesday. And we could see that picking up steam. If you're interested in listening to the lyrics of the Eagles' Hotel California, which is a great song, I have to admit, then please do. The link is there on Rich Wrap-Ups. Crude oil futures, this is in New York, settled at $45.52, up 0.86%, having been up over 2% at one point, and having received quite a bullish inventory report. My price target remains $32 a barrel in New York, but of course the thing zigs and zags, and $32 is a very bold call. And the point I feel is that so many capitals are fiddling while sitting on a tinderbox and playing with matches. And this is something that Die Welt picked up on, saying market participants too complacent with Gulf crisis could prove to be a case of sleepwalking into disaster, which is what I was saying. Reserves have been depleted from Abuja to Riyadh, from Luanda to Caracas, and in all the oil-producing capitals in the world. And in fact, that depletion is probably inversely correlated to the attractiveness of Saudi Arabia rolling over Qatar and getting their mitts on $335 billion worth of reserves, for starters. Crude oil prices in extremis move exponentially, and this move is all the ingredients, in my view, of turning exponential. I called it a Wizard of Oz moment, and that there was no one behind the curtain, and this market is primed to crash, and I still think that is a big risk. And subsequently, after it had settled, this is from Lee_Sachs, who posts the charts, there was a sharp slide in the middle of the night, my time. So despite a massive draw in inventories on Thursday, oil unable to sustain gains, Brent now drops to $47.59. I think we might get a little recovery today because we're going to get the rig count, and I'm sure that price pressure did mute some of the rig increases we've been seeing. Wheat is getting smoked. This is from the Stalwart, and we'll come to that basket of commodities later on. Home thoughts. For 5 years, when I was at school, I would hear the chimes of Big Ben every 15 minutes, and I saw this wonderful photograph that I'm about to post of Big Ben, and I used to hear that every 15 minutes. Piglet sidled up to Pooh from behind. Pooh, he whispered. Yes, Piglet. Nothing, said Piglet, taking poo's paw. I just wanted to be sure of you. A. Milne, The House at Pooh Corner. I think I'm going to read that to Hannah. Because that about sums it up, doesn't it? Sidle up to Pooh from behind. Pooh, he whispered. Yes, Piglet. Nothing, said Piglet, taking Pooh's paw. Just wanted to be sure of you. If ever there is tomorrow when we're not together, there is something you must always remember. You are braver than you believe, stronger than you seem, and smarter than you think. But the most important thing is, even if we're apart, I'll always be with you. And my final one, I think we dream so we don't have to be apart for so long. If we're in each other's arms, we can be together all the time. A. Milne. Wonderfulest things are ever the unmentionable. Deep memories yield no epitaphs. Moby Dick. Gotham City, Nairobi, before the madness awakens. This is a photograph from Curly Cheeks, and I came through the city early in the morning, about 5:30. And it's rather nice. You can speed along and get in very quickly. And you've got that early morning feel about things. I enjoy that moment. I remember I used to enjoy coming home late at night, but of course, in this day and age, you're not going to find me coming home at that kind of hour. This is a dystopia, but also a post-apocalypse. The dystopia survived the apocalypse. Nobody can get their head around it. Too bad. You can do post-apocalypse things, survivalist stuff, rationing, killing, new tribalism, but you can also go the dystopia route, struggle against the decadent lords and masters, smash the seductive machine that's controlling your head. Just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're not also stupid, and neither precludes the possibility that you've got your boot on the neck of someone even worse off. This was a photograph that Bloomberg posted in China, and it sort of caught my attention. I'm sure I'll catch yours. I haven't been there for many years. I want to go back. I'm sure it's unrecognizable. I went there in 1996, wandered around the Forbidden City all by myself. Pretty amazing. G20 protester. This is from Der Spiegel. A lot of protests going on. This is a very interesting article in the Daily Beast. Mind games, how ex-spies think Putin will succor sociopathic narcissist Trump. Putin, a former KGB operations officer, will not just be practicing interpersonal diplomacy, they say. He'll be putting his tradecraft as a spy to work. His main asset, Trump's massive and delicate ego. It won't just be the expected flattery. From the spy's perspective, though, flattery is key to dealing with the sociopathic narcissist tendencies. Putin, one-time KGB General Oleg Kalugin, told the Daily Beast he has been in power for so many years, and by character he knows how to handle things and how to outsmart others, including presidents of the United States. Trump is just about a sociopathic narcissist. This is Glenn Carl, a retired CIA interrogator and analyst. That's not to denounce him, but just an assessment of the guy. Fulsome praise, full of garbage. It's a small price to pay to get what you want. Brilliant. That's about it. What do they want? Say it's East Ukraine. You continue to undermine the US commitment and the need for NATO, and you do that by talking about what he thinks he understands, money and trade. You build upon the spurious line that Germany and NATO are free riders, bilking Americans out of money. Why should Americans die for some crowds? That plays in the Peoria that is Trump's mind. The truly scary part is Putin only has to say to Trump that you're right and the haters are wrong, and to manipulate him, adds Navid Jamali, former undercover FBI double agent. The Russians, Jamali added, are devious motherfuckers, skilled at manipulating others into doing their bidding without recognizing it. This was interesting. A test case for Russia came in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely, Jamali said. There, the Saudis threw Trump a massive party for the president's first foreign trip, replete with non-stop flattery. A dance involving swords and a photo with a mysterious orb that garnered worldwide publicity. Weeks later, with Saudi Arabia in a massive regional dispute with Qatar, Trump openly backed the Saudi side, even as his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, called for an end to the conflict. Trump should be calm, listen to all Putin's arguments, and avoid making any spontaneous decisions, said former parliamentarian and KGB officer Gennady Gudkov. I think that was an excellent article and summing the whole thing up. I wrote about Putin severally, actually. In October 2015, I called him a geopolitical grandmaster. In December 2016, I spoke of how I spoke of his parabolic rebound, and how he had intercepted and interfered in the US election, and that he's proven himself an information master, and his adversaries are information victims. Putin-Trump negotiations are seen by the Washington Post in this cartoon. Trump to say in Poland's speech, fundamental question of our time is whether the West has the will to survive, apparently. And I concluded by saying that Donald is seriously apocalyptical. And that took me back to Apocalypse Now, the Ride of the Valkyries. The link is there as well. And a piece I wrote on the 22nd of May, Apocalypse, Real Donald Trump. The Handshake, this is a cartoon from The Telegraph. And on the 3rd of July, I wrote, Donald Trump resides in the White House from where Zeus-like he hurls Twitter thunderbolts. Trump ranked at a 1% chance at the start of the Republican primaries overturned the odds, and today he resides in the White House where Zeus-like he hurls Twitter thunderbolts. And I was complaining that previous week he decided to showboat his insanity on a public timeline. In North Korea, a surgical strike could spin into the worst kind of fighting. Even the most limited strike risks staggering casualties because North Korea could retaliate with thousands of artillery pieces it has positioned along its border with the South. Though the arsenal is of limited range and could be destroyed in days, the United States Defense Secretary Jim Mattis recently warned that if North Korea used it, it would probably be the worst kind of fighting in most people's lifetimes. It's very close soul, so he's got an ability to strike and cause mass casualties. And I think he learned his lesson, that you need to get a deterrent, otherwise you get rolled over, just like Muammar, who didn't have a deterrent, and Saddam, who didn't have one either. This is, of course, Rocket Man Kim. If you want to listen to Elton John's Rocket Man, that link is there as well. Bloomberg View is asking why China tolerates a nuclear North Korea, and saying, it doesn't want a nuclear war in its backyard, couldn't possibly benefit from the collapse of Kim's regime, which would almost certainly leave a US ally, South Korea, in charge of a unified Korea across the border. China also knows that the US can't realistically attack North Korea, but because the loss of South Korean and American lives, that would follow. This is something that I've written about in 2010 when I said, the media keeps chanting like a mantra, China will rein North Korea in. And I was saying it's not in their interest to have a mad dog, and they keep saying it's not in their interest to have a mad dog like North Korea as an ally. And said that this is an embedded narrative fallacy in my view. China's, interested in North Korea being the buffer state. It's a perfect instrument of an attack dog, as it were. And there are 25,000 soldiers sitting at that border, US soldiers. And I'm sure the Chinese would like to run into the sea. And in my piece that I wrote in 2010, I was describing their hands. If you look at the Kim's hands, they're tiny little hands like the elves and the shoemaker. Far away in distant lands lies the Hermit Kingdom. This land is ruled by the House of Kim, and the capital is Pyongyang. The first and eternal president was Kim Il-sung, and his successor Kim Jong-il, whose designated successor is Kim Jong-un. They've all had tiny little hands like the elves and the shoemaker. 6 years into the Arab Spring, Gaddafi has been replaced by this guy. This is Karl Marx. Of course, this is General Haftar. Put up a photograph of Muammar Gaddafi. And remember the piece I wrote about how his body was in a freezer. And I was asking, what's the message? US bombers challenged China in the South China Sea. This is interesting. They've taken a much more aggressive posture of late. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson said Qatar and 4 Arab nations should resolve their dispute on their own, so he's thrown the Qataris over. Canada's Justin Trudeau met with Queen Elizabeth II on his Scotland visit. Looks as if they got on well. Narendra Modi and Benjamin Netanyahu visited a mobile desalination unit on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea. The Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn is in an existential crisis. This was Neil Kinnock, September 2016, and I thought much the same. The latest polls have Labour at 46% and the Conservatives at 38%. Have a look at this. Jeremy Corbyn. He's very confident, and it's an extraordinary situation. He's upended it all over, and he's surely headed to number 10 within 12 months. Letter of the decade on Brexit, only in the FT. You've got to read it. The link is there. It's pretty cheeky. Bank of Japan, no bids were tendered after the central bank offered to buy benchmark 10-year notes 0.11%. So they're keeping easy money policy at a time when bond yields are climbing everywhere else, which means the yen has got to soften. I'm looking for the yen to fall to 114. Spread between the euro government paper and Japanese government paper rose to the highest in over 2 years. That's going to continue to support the euro against the yen. And then have a look at this chart, which looks amazing, doesn't it? Euro yen. Biggest experiment in monetary history. Bank of Japan fights bond bears, has held 10-year yields near zero while global bond yields keep rising. That's from Holger. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro dollar 114.20, dollar index 95.97, Japanese yen 113.73, Swiss franc 0.9610, the pound 129.53, the Australian dollar 0.7592, India rupee 64.745, South Korean won 11.5573, the Brazilian real 329.89, Egyptian pound, they raised rates 200 basis points, but I like the Egyptian pound a lot, and I'd do an unhedged 1-year trade, buy some treasury bills. I think it's a screaming buy. The rand, on the other hand, isn't. That's at 13.45.38, and the political risk means that it's beginning to feel as if it's really going to roll over. Dollar index, well, no man's land, key support 93.50. We're at 95.95. Euro dollar, my new target now is 117.50. We're currently at 114.21. Tesla's share decline accelerates as the hits keep coming. And have a look at this from the stalwart Tesla inverted versus 30-year yields. Commodity markets, silver flash crashed. Take a look at this. Food prices are near a 2-year high thanks to a record surge in butter and wheat. You know what they say about food prices and revolutions. Record butter prices, gains in meat and wheat's drought-fueled rally have pushed global food costs to near the highest in 2 years. Limited export availability in the dairy market has made products including butter and cheese more expensive, while hot and dry weather in the US and Europe in the past month sent wheat futures surging. That helped to gauge food prices rise by 1.4% in June. This is a month for wheat prices, and meat is firming up as well. A lot of the increases in the dairy market came from the butter situation. Butter jumped 14% to a record, meat rose 1.8% up for a 6th month, grains gained 4.2% to a 1-year high. Emerging market currencies are in the bullseye as more central banks signal rate hikes. Indeed, miscommunication caused a mind-boggling drop in the Pakistan rupee. Take a look at it. According to them, but it was only 3%. Zambian president plans to impose a state of emergency to quell unrest. I really think he's going in the wrong direction. Big jump in African tourists, according to the BBC. This is interesting. International visitor numbers to Africa more than doubled from 1995 to 2014. Average of 4 out of 10 of them were from other African countries. The figure rose to 2 out of 3 in sub-Saharan Africa. Analysts say liberalizing air transport and further relaxing visa rules could boost tourism further. It currently accounts for nearly 9% of the continent's economy. Sector supports more than 21 million jobs, or 1 in 14 jobs on the continent. That's incredible. And listen to this. In Rwanda, the abolition of visa requirements for fellow members of the East African community in 2011 helped increase intra-regional tourists from 283,000 in 2010 to 478,000 in 2013. We should do more of that. This is a photograph of Fort Jesus in Mombasa that I took. And this is a photograph of the sunset of the Samburu that I also took. Deep trouble. South African mining is in crisis. You can say that again. The Economist has an interesting article. I'm thinking about that. You look at South Africa, you look at the unilateral moves in Tanzania. And, it doesn't take long to become completely uninvestable because mining requires very big ticket transactions. There's an Australian mining company which is conducting business in Tanzania. It's been delisted or frozen. And you can see the knock-on effect happens very quickly. South African oil shares up 3.22% this year. Dollar versus rand. Take a look at this chart. I think the rand is rolling over. Egypt unexpectedly raised interest rates by 200 basis points. It doesn't get much better than that. So you got about 19-20% on one-year treasury bills. I'd go in unhedged. I think T-bills unhedged is a great trade. Nigeria has succession jitters again, awash in nervous speculation over the health of President Buhari, who hasn't appeared in public since he returned to the UK for medical treatment on May the 7th. And I wrote about this over the weekend when I said over in Nigeria, which entered a Yaradua deja vu wormhole, the authorities continue to take the fight to the forex markets. But what I was really talking about, this very similar thing happened not a few years back. Nigerian oil share up 20.39% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange up 17.03% year to date. Very interesting report about its Chinese town at the center of the global ivory smuggling racket. Shuidong town is home to a network of ivory trafficking syndicates whose reach extends to East and West Africa, including the elephant poaching hotspots of Tanzania and Mozambique. One syndicate member told undercover investigators that Shuidong is the destination for a staggering 80% of all poached ivory smuggled into China from Africa. Shuidong Connection, this is by the London Environmental Investigation Agency, first encountered the Shuidong smugglers in September 2014 while investigating the catastrophic poaching of elephants in Tanzania. Zanzibar, the main gateway for shipment of tusks flowing out of Tanzania. And they met a sea cucumber trader from Shuidong who revealed that a community of his compatriots in Zanzibar was behind the smuggling, with a small group sending out 20 shipments to China in just 1 year. It's horrendous, isn't it? Are we open to acquiring? Absolutely. This is CEO Jeremy Awori of Barclays, Kenya. You'll either be looking to acquire capabilities you don't have, mutually compatible, or you'd be able to see efficiencies that you'd be able to gain being together rather than running two separate entities. This is Jeremy Awori of Barclays. Barclays is up 7.69% year to date, and is a bit of a buy. Africa Confidential has a lot of information about Kenya and the elections. First of all, they got a headline, vote rigging just got harder. When the appeal court in Nairobi ruled on 23rd June that the results of the presidential vote announced at the constituency level should be considered final, it changed the dynamics of next month's general elections. Opposition activists are celebrating an electoral expert says it has reduced the scope for vote rigging at the centre by officials of the IEBC. So that might be true, I'm not sure. And then a very detailed article, Closer and Closer, as it garners support, the opposition alliance insists that it cannot lose the election unless it is stolen. That of its very nature is problematical. There is a spring in the step of the opposition National Super Alliance NASA. Just over 4 weeks before the general elections, much of Kenya's political class concedes that the polls are looking far closer than they did 6 months ago. Many are bracing themselves for fierce battles in the Rift Valley and at the coast. After the chaos and confusion of its early days, NASA is now running an energetic and determined campaign based on using three main tactics: personality, ethnicity, and blaming the governing Jubilee Alliance for high food prices and corruption. Correct? It's paid off in the opinion survey. Certainly has. NASA reckons it has locked the coast constituencies and they're reckoning that this would give NASA 10 million of the 19.6 million votes that are that are available. Alarmingly, the opposition campaign is also taking an anti-coup tone. It is indeed. Well, it's worth reading this in full because it's really gone right down to the constituency level. It's a very in-depth, what looks to me a very on-the-money article. In a close contest, I thought that the response to the well-flagged food crisis was seriously suboptimal. However, incumbency still means something, and I think, but it's very, very close, and obviously events could play a big role. Equity Bank traded 68.582 million shares yesterday. That's 1.85% of its shares. Closed at 37.50. It's up 25% year to date. If you want to dive into it, just click on the link for Equity Bank. Nairobi All Shares up 13.62% this year. NSE 20 is up 12.38% this year. Wishing you a tremendous weekend.